Okay, so you know that feeling you get, right? Like when you've just uh poured everything you have into this like amazing blog post.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I don't know, it's like you've given birth to it or something,
Oh,
right?
sure.
But then it's just kind of like sitting there on your website.
Yeah.
Today we are talking about taking all that work that you've done
Right.
and giving it a new life as an engaging slide deck.
Absolutely.
So kind of like you're not letting that effort go to waste.
Exactly.
And you're reaching a whole new audience who might not have seen it before.
For sure. And really, like, why start from scratch, right?
Right.
When you've already got this great content you can work with.
Exactly. And this deep dive is inspired by an article that we saw just yesterday on April 4th, 2025 from blogwidow.com. And it's titled, How to Create Slide Decks from Your Blog Content.
Catchy.
Right. So we're going to kind of dive into that article and extract some of the key steps and insights for you so you can easily transform those blog posts into like really awesome slide decks.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So the article starts by talking about identifying the key sections in your blog post. So this is about taking this longer form piece of content and figuring out how to break it down into these little bite-sized pieces
Right.
that'll work well for slides.
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting about that is that it forces you to really boil down your message to like its very essence.
Right.
The blog post, it can kind of meander, like you can go off on a tangent, but a slide deck,
Mm.
it really demands that focus.
Yeah.
Like you have to cut away anything that's not absolutely essential
Right.
to the main argument.
Yeah.
And the article talks about highlighting the main points and converting them into like really short sentences or bullet points.
Mhm.
And having each slide really focus on a single idea.
Okay.
And it says, it's kind of like if your blog post is a detailed map, your slide deck is the series of signposts
Ooh.
that guide someone through the most important landmarks.
Oh, that's a good analogy. So to give a specific example, the article talks about like, say you have a blog post titled How to Start a Successful Online Business.
Okay.
So you wouldn't want to just copy and paste that whole blog post into a slide deck,
Right.
but instead you would break it down into its natural sections. So like you might have a slide deck that starts with like an introduction to online businesses.
Right.
Then maybe there's a section on the importance of choosing the right niche.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'd have a section on creating a solid business plan and then like building your online presence. So it kind of follows the same logical progression as the blog post, but it's broken down in a way that makes sense visually.
Right. And that just enhances clarity for your audience, right?
Yeah.
Instead of facing like a wall of text, they're presented with this like really structured series of takeaways.
Exactly.
And that just makes it so much easier for them to digest the information and remember it.
Absolutely. So once you've got your blog post kind of mentally broken down into these sections, the next thing the article talks about is choosing a visual theme or a template for your slide deck.
Right.
And this is all about keeping your design consistent and making sure your slides look professional and engaging.
Yeah. And we live in such a visually saturated world, right? It's like
Right.
your content is constantly competing for attention.
Yeah.
So a well-designed slide deck, it isn't just about aesthetics.
Mm.
It actually helps convey professionalism and it builds trust with your audience.
Oh, okay. So it's not just about like pretty pictures.
No, it's more than that.
Okay.
And the article mentions a bunch of different platforms that have these great customizable templates. So you've got things like PowerPoint and Google Slides and Canva.
Oh, yeah. I love Canva.
Yeah, me too.
And they all offer, a lot of variety in what you can do.
Yeah, and I think what's really key here is picking something that not only looks good, but it also aligns with your brand.
Right. So if your website has a certain look and feel, you want your slide decks to kind of match that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You want to create that seamless experience for your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And the article really emphasizes this, like choosing a theme or a template that matches the tone of your blog.
Right.
So if you have a really clean, minimalist design for your blog, you wouldn't want to suddenly use a template that's like super busy and like has a ton of graphics.
Right. It would be jarring.
Totally.
So what are some of the benefits of doing that, like visually aligning your blog with your slides?
Well, one thing is like, when you use the same color palette or fonts or even just style of imagery across your blog and your slide decks, it creates this cohesive brand experience.
Okay.
And that can actually like subconsciously communicate your brand's values and personality.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the article mentions that specifically it's like using the same color palette and the same fonts and branding elements.
Right.
That's what really creates that seamless integration.
Okay, so, we've broken down the blog post. We've got this nice template chosen. What's next?
Okay, so now we're going to get into the power of visuals
Mm.
and how to use them in your slides.
Okay.
So the article really stresses that slide decks are a visual medium.
Mm-hmm.
So, think about visuals like images, icons, graphics. They can really enhance your message.
Okay.
But, you don't want to just throw a bunch of random images on there.
Right.
It's really important to be strategic about it.
Okay.
The article says you don't want cluttered slides, a slide with like too much stuff on it. It just becomes overwhelming.
Right.
And then people can't focus on your message.
Oh, okay.
So the key is to use visuals to really illustrate and reinforce your key points.
So it's not just about making it look pretty. It's about actually using those visuals to help people understand your message.
Exactly.
And, I think this is a good point. The article mentions using relevant images that you might have already used in the blog post.
Oh, well.
That way it's like, it's efficient.
Yeah.
You're not reinventing the wheel and it's keeping everything looking really consistent.
Right.
But what if your blog post doesn't have a lot of strong visuals?
That's a great point. And while repurposing those existing visuals is super efficient,
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to go out and find new ones.
Okay.
As long as they align with your theme
Yeah.
and they really communicate your ideas effectively.
Okay.
The article gives this example where it says, like, if you're talking about website traffic growth in your presentation,
Right.
like a chart or a graph is going to be way more impactful than just saying the numbers.
Right. Showing versus telling.
Exactly. And there are a ton of great resources out there for free images like Unsplash or Pexels.
Oh, yeah. I love those.
Yeah, me too.
Now, I know this might seem obvious, but the article makes a good point about keeping the text on your slides super concise.
Oh, for sure.
This is not the time to be like copying and pasting those long paragraphs from your blog post.
Definitely not.
Why is that so important?
Well, think about how people actually look at slide decks.
Mm.
Whether they're watching a presentation or they're scrolling through something on social media, they're really looking for like those quick bites of information.
Yeah,
And if you overload the slide with text, people are just going to tune out.
right.
So the goal is to really give just enough text to support the visual and kind of trigger that understanding.
Okay.
You don't need to write the whole blog post again.
Right. And the article gives this example of like, taking the topic, how to grow an email list,
Yeah.
and breaking it down into these short action items like create a compelling lead magnet
Mhm.
or use pop-up forms strategically.
Yes.
Or offer exclusive content to subscribers.
Exactly. And that just, it's like creating those mental anchors
Oh,
where you have like a brief phrase and a relevant image.
right.
It just creates a stronger connection in people's minds.
I see.
So they remember it better.
Okay, now another really interesting point that the article makes is about using data and quotes from your blog posts to add credibility to your slide deck.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that a good idea?
Well, if your blog post was based on solid research or if it included some great quotes from experts,
Right.
those elements can really add weight to your slides.
Oh,
It shows your audience that you're not just making stuff up.
Right.
Your claims are backed up by evidence.
You've done your homework.
Yeah, exactly.
And the article really stresses the importance of visualizing that data whenever possible.
For sure.
So instead of just saying like, our website traffic increased by 25% last quarter, you could show a chart or a graph.
Right. It just makes it so much more real for people.
Right. And I think that's a huge point that they're making is like, you're transforming those abstract numbers into something that people can really grasp.
Absolutely. And a well-designed chart can show trends and relationships in a way that words just can't.
Yeah, I'm definitely a visual learner, so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, too.
The example that they give in the article is like, if you're talking about social media engagement in your blog post, you could have a slide that says something like, Instagram has over 1 billion monthly active users.
Wow.
And then you pair that with a graph that shows user growth over time.
Perfect.
That really drives home the point.
Totally. It just makes it so much more persuasive.
Okay, so now let's talk about the end of the slide deck. The article says it's super important to include a call to action or a CTA.
Yes.
Why is that so important in this context?
Well, you're creating the slide deck for a reason, right?
Mhm.
You're not just presenting information.
Yeah.
You want your audience to do something afterwards.
Okay.
So whether that's visiting your blog or signing up for your email list or downloading something,
Right.
you need a clear call to action to kind of guide them.
Gotcha. So it's not just like, here's some information, bye.
Exactly.
Like, here's some information, now do this.
Yeah, exactly. And the article gives a bunch of examples of effective CTAs.
Okay.
So, you could encourage people to visit your blog for more information,
Mm-hmm.
or you could ask them to subscribe to your newsletter, or offer a free download, or tell them to follow you on social media.
I see.
The key is to make it really clear what you want them to do and why they should do it.
Okay, so what are some things that make a call to action, like, really effective?
Well, first of all, it needs to be clear and concise.
Oh,
Like,
that-
don't beat around the bush. Tell people exactly what you want.
Right.
And then you need to focus on the benefit to them.
Okay.
Like, what are they going to get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
The example they give in the article is for an email marketing slide deck.
Okay.
And the CTA is sign up for a free email marketing checklist.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Nice and straightforward.
And then they include a link right there so people can easily click it.
Easy peasy.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've created this amazing slide deck. How do you actually get it out there in front of people?
Right. Well, the article talks about optimizing your slide deck for different social media platforms.
Okay, why is that so important?
Well, your audience is probably spread out across different platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what works on one platform might not work on another.
Right.
So it's important to tailor your content to each platform.
Okay.
For example, a slide deck that's designed for a presentation with like a wide landscape orientation.
Hmm.
It's not going to look good if you try to cram it into a vertical Instagram story.
Right.
So the article mentions that vertical slides tend to do really well on platforms like Instagram Stories and LinkedIn,
Okay.
while horizontal slides are better for places like SlideShare and Pinterest.
I see.
And you also need to think about things like font size
Okay.
so that it's readable on a phone,
Right.
and using visuals that are really eye-catching,
Hmm.
and incorporating things like hashtags that are specific to each platform.
Yeah.
The article gives this example of using vertical slides with bold fonts for Instagram stories,
Okay.
and including your Instagram handle and your website URL on every slide.
Oh, that's smart.
So it's really clear how to find you.
Okay, so once you've kind of tailored your slide deck for different platforms, what's the next step?
Promotion. You got to get it out there.
Yeah.
And the article has some really good advice on how to do that.
Yeah.
One key strategy is to embed the slide deck directly into the original blog post.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it adds visual interest to your blog, and it gives people another way to consume the information.
Right.
And of course, you want to share it on all your social media platforms,
Obviously.
tailoring the message for each platform.
Okay, so what about beyond social media? Are there other ways to promote it?
Yeah, definitely. If you have an email list,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great way to reach people who are already interested in your content.
Right.
You can also upload your slide deck to SlideShare or LinkedIn Slides, and then share the link on social media and in your blog post.
Gotcha.
The article even suggests creating an Instagram carousel that highlights the key points from your slide deck.
Oh, that's cool.
Or you could upload the full deck to SlideShare and then mention it in a follow-up blog post.
That's a good idea.
So there are a ton of options.
So to sum it all up, the main takeaway here is that you've already put all this work into creating this awesome blog content.
Right.
So why let it just sit there?
Exactly.
You can repurpose it into this engaging slide deck and reach a whole new audience.
Yeah, and it's not just about saving time.
Right.
It's also about providing value to people who prefer to learn visually.
Right. Or who might not have the time to read a whole blog post.
Exactly.
So we've talked about identifying your key content, designing visually appealing slides, using impactful visuals and concise text, boosting credibility with data, incorporating clear calls to action, and promoting your slide deck across all your channels.
Yep.
Now, for you, our listener, here's something to think about.
Okay.
Take a moment to really consider which of your blog posts has the most potential for this kind of transformation.
Okay.
Like which one would really shine as a slide deck.
Yeah.
And think about where your audience hangs out online. How could you tailor your slide deck to each platform?
Right.
What kind of new opportunities could this open up for you? It's exciting to think about.
It is. It's all about thinking outside the blog post.
I love it.
Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.